Hi players, bonjour from Paris, my name is Asaf and welcome to my channel Easy Board Games. Today I'm going to show you how to play Runewars by Fantasy Flight Games. This is the first edition, so pay attention that this is not the revised edition that came a little bit later. As always, if you learn something new or if you saw something that you like, consider subscribing to the channel, like and comment on the video. Let me know if you would like to see more content for this awesome game. Ready to see how it goes? Let's go to setup. Alright guys, so the first thing that we're going to do is to choose the first player. You can either do it randomly or the way that the game suggests, which is basically just taking cards and see which is the highest number, but I randomly chose that the blue player is going to be the first player. That player is going to choose first their faction, and then going clockwise, the other players are going to choose theirs. Now this is going to be a two-player how to play, so it will be super easy. Then each player is going to take all the components of their faction. So we're going to start with a faction sheet that is the player board that we can see right over here. Then all the miniatures in their color. We're going to have the home realm map tile, and you can know that this is your faction's home tile just because the symbol that you can see right over here is the same symbol that we can see on the different areas on that tile. Then we're going to take all the different tokens like the stronghold, the activation markers, and the development tokens. And then we're going to take the order cards, and we have 8 of those. The next thing that we're going to do is to set up the map itself. So we're going to take all the quest cards and we're going to separate them into 2 different piles. The first pile is going to be with a setup quest that we can see right over here, and then the rest of the cards. We're going to give it a good shuffle, and then we're going to give 2 cards to each player. Now, when you're flipping those cards, you can see that you have here numbers and letters, and those correspond to the different tiles that we have in this game. So for example, the blue player now is going to take tiles 9A and 7A. The red faction is going to take tiles 5A and 3A. Then the first player is going to choose one of their tiles and they're going to place them at the center of the table. So the blue player decided to take tile 7A and place it first of all at the center of the table. So imagine right now that we have only this tile right over here. Again, this is tile 7A. Then the next player is going to take one of their tiles and they're going to attach it to the tiles that are already on the table. Pay attention that 2 areas from the new tile need to touch 2 areas of the tiles that are already on the table. So again, for example, we're going to say that the second player has chosen this tile to place second. So we have here 2 areas and they're going to touch 2 other areas. This is an area and this is an area. Then again, it's going to go back to the first player and they're going to take their next tile, which is 9A. It's this one right over here. And again, attach it, doesn't matter where on the board, as long as we have 2 areas touching other 2 areas. So this is going to be their next move. And then of course, the second player is going to place their last tile, which is this one, just like this. Pay attention that while you're installing the map, you cannot have the different borders touching each other in a parallel way. So for example, if we have this tile with this border right over here, we cannot place it just like this. There's no problem if it's going to continue it, but we cannot place it like this, so we have a border touching a border. Then the first player is going to take the home realm setup markers. That's a mouthful, and they're going to attach them to the outer line of the map with 2 restrictions. The first restriction is that each marker has to touch 3 borders that are non-colored. Okay, so they're not supposed to touch one of these borders. So this can be a good example, just like this. And then the next marker has to be at least 4 areas away from it. So this is 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then it means that we have no problem to put the second marker just like this. Then starting with the player to the left of the first player, so that means that the first player is going to do this action last. Each player is going to take their home tile and they're going to choose one of those markers to place however they want their home tile in. So for our example, the red faction is going to take out this marker in order to place this home tile over here. And then the first player is going to be the second player that is going to choose. Obviously, they don't have much of a choice, so they're going to replace this marker right over here and they're going to place their home tile just like this. These markers have finished their job and they can go back to the box. After that, we'll need to place the neutral units on the different areas if they are indicated on. So over here in this area, we're going to have here the indication of a dragon, and we're going to take this neutral unit and we're going to place it on it. Now you can follow the player aid that we have right over here to understand which icon is going to correspond to which neutral unit. So at the end of the setup, we're supposed to have something like this. The next step is to take all the city tiles, give them a good shuffle, and then randomly assign each token to a place where we have a city. The next step that we'll have is to build the quest deck. So we're going to remove from the quest cards all the cards that have a tile that is not corresponding to one of the tiles that we have right now in the board. So this card right over here that is indicated with the 4A does not correspond to any of the areas that we have on our tiles, and this is why this card is going to go out from the game. We can put it back in the box. The rest of the cards, that means cards that have the number and the letter that correspond to one of the areas on the map, or just cards that don't indicate anything, we're going to shuffle together alongside with the cards that we have dealt to the players at the beginning of the setup. Then we're going to shuffle this deck. Then we're going to set the initiative, tactic cards, and resources according to what we can see on the faction sheet. So with the dials themselves, we can see that for each resource, we have a number that is a little bit more highlighted and in a different color. So each dial for the setup is going to be set on that specific number. So over here, it's going to be set on 3. Then each faction is going to take the number of influence tokens, as we can see over here, and the number of tactic cards. Then starting from the first player, each player is going to place one of their strongholds on one of their areas of their home starting tile. Then again, starting from the first player, each player is going to recruit according to one of the dials that they have. Now we're going to talk about recruitment a little bit later, but in general, the blue player can place in one of their areas either 2 footmen or 1 archer or 1 knight. After that, each player is going to receive 2 dragon runes and 1 false runes. They're going to flip it to the other side, so what the other players will be able to see are just these question marks, and they're going to place them however they would like on their home map tile. They can place a maximum of 1 token per area. Then each player is going to receive 2 quest cards into their possession. Then we're going to take the hero cards and we're going to separate them into different decks according to their alignment. So the alignment of each faction is what we can see right over here at the bottom left corner of the faction sheet. And then each player is going to draw 1 hero card from the deck that correspond to their alignment. So of course, after we have shuffled these cards, the first player is going to choose from this deck since this is their alignment. Then the red player, that their alignment is the different one, they're going to choose 1 hero from this deck. The third deck is kind of neutral heroes, and they don't take part right over here in setup. After all the players have chosen their heroes, we are going to take the 3 different decks, we're going to shuffle them together, and we're going to place them next to the map. Each player now is going to take their corresponding hero's miniature and they're going to place it wherever they want on their home tile. The last thing that we're going to do in setup is just place the different tokens and cards next to the map. So let's go quickly over the things that we can see right now. So starting from here, we have the Fate deck, Quest deck as we've seen before, the reward cards, the tactic cards, the hero deck. Then we have the 2 objective cards that are being separated between the different alignments. And over here we can see 4 decks of the 4 different seasons. So obviously don't forget that we need to shuffle each one of these decks. Over here we're going to take the 3 title cards and we're going to place them face up. After that we're going to move on to the tokens. Here we have the battle token. After that we have 2 piles of the runes, over here the dragon runes, and over here the false runes. Here we have the influence, the damage tokens, the training tokens, and the defeated hero markers. And with that guys, we are ready to roll. In Runewars, we're going to play a series of rounds that are being called seasons. In each season, we're going to draw one of the cards and we're going to resolve the effects that we have in that card. After that, the second part is that each player is going to choose one of the order cards that they're having. Those are identical order cards between the players. And after that, the last thing that we're going to do in each season is we're going to reveal those cards and we're going to resolve the different effects that we have on them. We have different cards and they're going to have different things there, like moving unit, entering into combat, diplomacy. We'll be able to build, recruit, take influence, the different cards, and so on. And don't worry, we're going to talk about everything a little bit later. If at some point a player is going to control 6 areas and in those areas they're going to have dragon runes, they're going to be declared as the winners. Of course, they have to reveal all those tokens and show the other players that they're controlling 6 areas with 6 dragon runes. If by the end of the 6th year, that means that we have played this sequence of 4 seasons 6 times, still we don't have a clear winner, then all the players are going to flip those tokens face up, and the player that controls the most dragon runes is going to be the winner. If by the time we have a tie, then the player that has the most influence tokens is going to be declared as the winner. And if again we have a tie, then the player that started with the most influence tokens, that means during setup, is going to be the winner. The first thing that we're going to do in each season is, what a surprise, resolve the current season card. So the first player is going to take the first card that we have in that specific deck, going to flip it to the other side and going to resolve it. Now the thing is that we have 2 parts in each card. The top part is something that is going to change from card to card. We're not going to go over all of the cards, but we are going to resolve the one that we have right now. The bottom part that we have in each card is a fixed outcome that we have in all the cards. Now pay attention that in each season we're going to have a different lower part of. In this card, for example, we're going to perform an influence bid, and the highest bidder may draw the top 2 cards of their hero deck, choose one to keep, shuffle the other card back into the hero deck. So again, let's resolve only this one, and I'll let you discover the other cards on your own. And with that, we're also going to explain how we're going to resolve the influence bids. So as you already understood, each faction has a different amount of influence tokens. We'll be able to have more influence by doing different actions that we're going to see later on the video. When you need to resolve an influence bid, the first thing that all the players need to do is to verbally declare how many tokens they have right now. You cannot lie, you have to say the real number of tokens. After that, each player is going to take all of their tokens into their hand and secretly choose how many tokens they would like to invest in order to resolve this bid. This can be, of course, starting from 0, that means that you're not going to put influence tokens at all in this bid, up to the maximum amount of tokens that you have right now. Then all players are going to reveal at the same time how many influence tokens they have invested in this bid. The person that has the most influence tokens is of course going to win this bid, and then they're going to resolve the effect that we have just read. In case of a tie, the faction that is going to win this bid is the faction that has the most unspent influence tokens. If again we're going to have a tie, then the faction that has the most starting influence tokens, that means the one that we can see on the faction sheet, is going to win this bid. So in this case, let's say that the blue player has invested 2 influence tokens, while the red player has invested only 1. So clearly in this case, the blue player has won this bid. All the factions are going to discard their tokens of influence that they have proposed in this bid, and then the blue player is going to resolve the effect that we can see right now on the card. In our case, the blue player is going to draw 2 cards from the hero deck. They're going to leave one in their hands, and the other one they're going to shuffle back into this deck. With the spring card, the secondary ability is something that instructs us to take back all the activation tokens that we have placed on the map during the entire year. After that, with the icon that we can see over here, all the players are going to take back all the order cards that they have played during the past year. And the last thing that we can see with this icon is that we're going to unroute. That means we're going to stand all the routed units that we have on the map itself. That can be the factions units, the neutral units, and of course their heroes themselves. After we have resolved this card, we're going to take this card and put it in a mutual discard pile right next to the other seasons cards. Now we're going to have one discard pile for all the different cards of the seasons, and that means that the season that we're playing right now is the topmost card in the discard pile. The second step of each season is that each player is going to take all of their order cards that they have, they're going to choose one of them, and they're going to place it face down in front of them. Super simple, right? But there is quite the strategy in this part, and we're going to see it in the next step. The last step of each season is that all the players are going to flip face up the order cards that they have chosen, and then we're going to start resolving these cards. The order in which the players are going to resolve the cards are going with the numbers that we can see right over here. The player that has the lowest order card in front of them is going to resolve their effect first. In case that we have a tie, just like we've seen before, the player that has the most influence tokens is going to break that tie. And if again we're going to have a tie, then the player that has the most starting influence is going to resolve their card first. Now in each order card, besides the 8th one, we're going to have two effects. The first one is the primary ability that we can see on top, and then we have the supremacy bonus ability. Now the top part is something that each player will be able to resolve no matter what. The lower part, the supremacy bonus, is going to be resolved by the player only if this is the highest order card that they have played this year. So of course, since this is going to be the first card that the blue faction is going to resolve, they don't have another card, so this is by definition the highest order card that right now is in front of them, so they will be able to resolve the supreme bonus. Let's say that in the next year we're going to have another order card, let's say this one, number 7. Since number 7 is now the highest order card, they will be able to resolve the supremacy bonus as well. But if later on we're going to have another card, here it's going to be number 3, since this is already not the highest order card that the blue faction has played during this year, they will not be able to resolve the supremacy bonus. After all the players have resolved their order cards, we're going to finish this season and we're going to start another one. Obviously it's going to be summer, then the same procedure in autumn, then the same procedure in winter. But I think that now will be an excellent time in order to go over all the order cards and see what each one of them means. Let's start with the first card that is called Strategize. The primary ability says move any of your units and heroes to adjacent friendly or empty areas. Do not activate the areas. So don't worry about this activating an area, we're going to see it with the next card, but let's talk about the movement of the units and heroes. Now they're doing the separation between units and heroes since heroes are not really considered as units. So let's start with understanding what is a friendly or empty area. An empty area is a hexagon that is not part of a rival faction with the home tile. Also, if we have different units, either neutral or enemy units, then of course it will not be considered as an empty area, or even strongholds of a different faction. With that, a hexagon that contains a city and nothing else will be considered as an empty area. A friendly area is an area that your faction controls, either by having a stronghold in that hexagon or one of your units, that means of course in your color, or it can also be one of the areas in your home tile. In our case, the blue faction decides that they're going to move their hero right over here, and also one of their footmen to this hexagon as well. The supremacy bonus over here says, then draw tactic cards as allowed by your resources. As you can see, we have 3 types of resources. We have food, wood, and ore. Each dial now indicates how many resources we have at this point. So when we are instructed to take tactics cards, that is something that really resembles the recruiting that we'll see a little bit later. we need to see what is the position of each dial right now. So let's take a look at this dial right over here that corresponds to the wood resource. We can see that the dial indicates on number 2, and we can see that we have here an icon of tactic cards. That means that we can take one tactic card. Also, let's say that our dial would have been right over on number 6. We would have been able to take one tactic card and also all the tactic cards that are lower than that. So in our case, it would have been 2 tactic cards, right? One over here and one that we saw on number 2. So in this case, again, since we have only this dial that indicates a tactics card, they're going to draw one tactic card from here, from the deck, and they're going to add it to their hand. Let's take just another small example. Let's say that we would have had this dial of the ore on number 3. Now, actually, the blue faction can take 2 tactic cards, right? Because we have this dial indicating this card, and we also have this dial for the ore that indicates another one. So by all of our resources, we are allowed to take 2 tactic cards. The next card that we're going to have is the Mobilize card. And the primary ability that we can see is to activate an area and then move any of your units to it from up to 2 areas away. So again, let's take a look at the map, and let's say that we are activating this area right over here. What we need to do is to take one of our activation tokens and place it over here, and then start moving units over there. Pay attention that it says units and not heroes, so your heroes cannot move with a Mobilize card. And we can move from up to 2 areas away. So that means that this footman, of course, will be able to move over here. And also this footman will be able to do 1 and 2 and go over here. Now, let's talk a little bit about movement. First of all, obviously, if we want to move through an area, it cannot contain neutral units or enemy units. And also, we have those kind of barricades that right now they don't affect our game so much, besides the movement between this area and this one. So I will not be able with one movement go from here to here, since we have this blockade. Another thing that we have with the movement is that some units, like the Knight of the blue faction, that has the keyword fast. When we have this keyword, that specific unit can actually move from one area further away. So basically, if we would have had here a knight 3 areas away from this hexagon that we just activated, there would have been no problem for that knight to come over here, as long as they respect the movement rules. Now we're going to talk a little bit later what happens when we're entering a hexagon that contains different units, either neutral or enemy units, so don't worry about that. We're going to have a different segment in this video that is going to talk about combat. The one thing that you need to remember, so let's say that we don't have this unit right over here, is that an area that you have activated and moved units to, until this area is going to be non-activated, that means we're going to take this token out from the map, units will be able to enter this area, will be able to recruit units here, but units will never be able to leave an area that is activated. A little bit like Hotel California. This is going to have an exception when we'll talk about retreating, but again, we'll talk about it when we're going to have combat. Now maybe the spring card is going to make a little bit more sense, since what they're saying there with the first icon is that we're going to remove all the activation tokens from the map. Also, now I can say that we understand the second icon that we have, and that is to take back into our hands all the order cards that we have played this year, or the passing year more likely, because obviously after we have played one of these cards, for the next season we will not have this card available in our hands. So now you understand that basically every year we're going to play only 4 cards and not more than that. The supremacy bonus that we have with Mobilize is that you can resolve this card a second time as long as you do not start a second battle. So now you already understand that with the Mobilize card, we can trigger combats. If we have triggered combat with the first movement, then this card says that we can again perform this movement as long as we're not going to activate a second battle. But if we haven't triggered a combat with the first movement, then in the second movement, this is what the supremacy bonus says, we will be able to trigger a combat. Moving on to the next order card, that is the Conquer, and we can see that its primary ability is the same as we have seen before with the Mobilize. The difference is with the supremacy bonus. During battle, reduce the strength of the opponent's stronghold by 3. So again, battles, strongholds, this is something that we're going to see a little bit later, but already you understand that this is something that is going to help us when we would like to conquer an opponent's stronghold, like we can see over here. The fourth order card is called Harvest. Reset your resource dials based on the areas that you control. So let's understand what are areas that we control. A controlled area is a hexagon that contains either one of your units, that means in your color, or that you have a stronghold over there. It does not mean, pay attention, that we're controlling an area where we have a hero, because again, a hero does not considered as a unit. Now take a look that at the bottom part of that hexagon, we have the different resources. This hexagon contains 2 food symbols, and here we have 2 wood symbols. So remember that, and now let's go to the faction sheet that we have over here. And we can see that we have with the food, our dial is already on number 2, so that is okay, no problem with that. Also with wood, we have already on 2, so no problem with that also, right? Because this is what we control, 2 wood and 2 food. But over here, we can see that we don't control at all areas with a ore. So right now, we need to take down the dial back to 0. The supremacy bonus of this card is that we're going to gain any bonuses provided by your developments. Wait for it. You may then lose 1 wood to build a development at a friendly stronghold. So the developments are the different tokens that we can see right over here. We have different type of developments. Let's take, for example, this token right over here that is going to provide for us 1 more influence. This is something that we'll be able to attach to a stronghold just like this. And when we need to pay this wood, basically, we need to take the dial and we're going to lower it by 1 step. This is what it means to lose 1 wood. So now let's go back and understand what it means to gain any bonuses provided by our developments. Right now we have only 1 development, and this means that we're going to take 2 of these influence tokens and we're going to add them to our hand, to our faction. If we would have had different and more of these developments, we would have gained more bonuses. The 5th order card that we have is the Recruit. Recruit units based on 1 of your resource types. So we already understood how we're going to take the different influence, for example, when we need to look at one of the dials. So now it's going to be pretty much the same, but with units. So let's look at the first unit that we can see right over here with the food dial, and that is the Footman. In our case, the blue faction will be able to recruit 2 footmen, that means take them from our supply, and place them in any area that they would like that contains a friendly stronghold. In our case, we have only 1 stronghold, so this is going to be rather simple. We're just going to take 2 footmen right over here, and we're going to place them in this hexagon just like that. The supremacy bonus over here says, then recruit units based on a 2nd resource type. So this is awesome. Basically, we can recruit 2 different kind of units. So in this case, you can already understand that we can recruit either a bowman, right? Because this indicates a tactic card, so it's not relevant. But over here, we have a bowman that is lower than that. Or we will be able to recruit 1 knight. Again, this is something that we'll take from our own supply, and we're going to place it right over here where we have a friendly stronghold. Now, units are something that is limited in this game. So if you want to recruit a unit and you don't have any more in your supply, you'll be able to voluntarily destroy one of your units from the map and add it to the friendly stronghold area that you would like. Pay attention that we have a limit of 8 units per hexagon, so we will not be able to have more than that. Again, I'm reminding you that heroes do not count as units, so there is no problem to have 8 units and a hero. The 6th order card that we have is the Rally Support. So over here we can see that the primary ability says for each city that you control, gain neutral units or tactic cards or influence or quest cards. So first of all, in order to resolve this card, obviously we need to control one of the cities that we have on the map. We have right over here 4 cities. So let's say that the blue player is now controlling this hexagon right over here. Now we will be able to choose one of the 4 parameters that we have on the city tile and take that specific bonus. Starting from here, it's quite simple. You're going to receive 2 influence tokens and you'll be able to take it to your supply. Over here, you'll be able to take 2 tactic cards and put it in your supply. And over here, we have to take 1 quest card. Or you will be able to recruit actually neutral units that when you will recruit them, they will be your allies. Don't worry, I know that we haven't talked about it yet, but we will see it a little bit later. For now, you need to know that when you're looking at this player aid right over here, you have a list of different neutral units that have different symbols. We have here a circle, triangle, rectangle, and also this hexagon. So you will recruit number of neutral units that is indicated on that city. Over here, we'll be able to recruit 1 unit with the triangle symbol. Here we can see that we have 2 of those, right? We have the Razor Wing or we have the Beastman. You'll be able to recruit 1 of them and place them, of course, in this tile right over here, and that will be considered as your ally. Let's say that we control 2 cities. For this city, we can take 1 of the bonuses, and for this city, we can take either the same bonus or a different bonus. And of course, pay attention that the numbers here are going to be different. The Supremacy bonus in the Rally Support card says that you may spend up to 3 influence to draw the same number of hero cards. Choose 1 to keep and shuffle the rest back into the deck. So we've already seen that with the season card that we saw at the beginning. So again, we're going to talk about heroes a little bit later, but that will allow you to spend up to 3 influence in order to draw that number of cards, keep 1 in your hands, and then shuffle the others back into this deck. The 7th order card is called Acquire Power. Gain influence as provided by your resources. So we're not going to repeat the process again. I think that you already understood. In this case, we'll be able to gain 2 influence because we're going to take influence as provided by all of your resources. With the food, we have 1 influence token, and with the ore, we have another one right over here. But you know what? Just for the fun of it, let's say that this dial would have been on number 8. Now we can take 4 influence tokens, 1 over here, 2 from here, and another 1 from here. The Supremacy bonus says choose a title card. This is what we can see right over here. Claim it by spending more influence than is on the title card, and then remove all influence from the title card, then place your spent influence on it. So title cards are different cards that are going to help us probably to have different bonuses, some of them even to receive rune tokens as we've seen before, and what you need to do is to spend influence to get them. Now, right now we have 0 influence on those title cards, right? So the blue player will be able to take only 1 influence, put it right over here and claim it. So they're going to put it next to them. Now, at another opportunity, let's say that the red faction would like to claim that title. They will need to spend at least 2 influence in order to claim that title. So they're going to remove the influence of the blue player. They're going to place 2 influence on it, and then they're going to claim the card. That means that it's going to be with their faction. Even if at another opportunity the blue player would like to spend 5 influence, they're just going to remove these 2 influence, put 5 over here, and then we'll be able to take the card and place it next to their faction mat. The last card that we have is Fortify, and pay attention that over here we do not have a Supremacy bonus. So over here we can see that we can perform any one of the following, but up to 1 time per each. So the first thing is to lose 1 ore and 1 wood. So again, we remember that means to take down the dial of those resources by 1, and then build a stronghold in an area that you control. It cannot contain a city, so we'll be able to build a stronghold right over here. We will not be able to build a stronghold in this hexagon since it contains already a city. The second option is to lose one or to repair one of your strongholds. Don't worry, we'll see it later with combat. And the last thing is to choose 2 friendly areas. You may freely move rune tokens between them. Now, the information is of course something that you can lie about, but pay attention that you can never ever take one of these tokens and literally show it to the other players. You can bluff a little bit, of course, with the empty rune tokens or with the dragon rune tokens and so on. Let's take an example of a combat and see how we're going to resolve it step by step. So let's say that the blue faction used one of their cards in order to activate this area, and they're going to move units over here to this hexagon. So they're going to take all of their units and they're going to place them right over here. With that, of course, we're going to activate the combat since we have here different units from 2 different factions. Now, when we're triggering a combat, we're going to follow a series of steps. So let's see how it rolls right now. The first thing that we're going to do is to take this battle marker token and we're going to place it in the contested hexagon. Next, we're going to take all the unrouted units, pay attention, units and not heroes, and we're going to place them next to the faction sheet. Now, routed units is something that we're going to talk about during combat, but in general, when we have a routed unit, that is a unit that is being laid down on its sideways, just like this, and it is not a standing unit. Now, the way that we're going to position these units next to our faction sheets is just according to their initiative number. So over here, we can see that the Flesh Reaper are actually with the initiative number 1. So we're going to take all the Flesh Reapers that we have and we're going to place them next to their number right over here, next to their title. Then we're going to have the Berserker, okay, so they're going to be over here. And at the end, we have the Chaos Lord, so they're going to be positioned next to the initiative number 5. Next to it, with the blue faction, we're going to have 2 bowmen and they have the initiative of 1. Then we're going to have 1 knight over here with the initiative of 2. And then we're going to have 3 footmen with the initiative of 3. The next step is to resort all the start of the battle abilities or tactic cards that we have. So when you have tactic cards, some of them are going to say at the beginning of the combat or something like that. Again, we're going to have here a lot of cards. We're not going to go over all of them, but they're very straightforward. So now it's the time to play some of these cards. The next step is to have up to 5 rounds of combat that we're going to resolve again according to some steps. I'm saying up to 5 because as you can see over here, we have 5 different initiatives. So basically we're going to activate units with the first initiative, then the second, third, and so on until we're going to resolve the units with 5 initiative. So now the attacker is going to choose one of their unit types with the first initiative, and I'm saying one of them because it is definitely possible to have more than one type of unit that you control with the same initiative. For example, if you control one of these neutral units that have an initiative of 1. Now we're going to talk about how you control neutral units a little bit later with the diplomacy, but just for you to know that it is possible to have in your army more than one type of unit with a certain initiative. So of course over here it's going to be super easy since the red faction and the blue faction both control only one type of creature of unit with the initiative of 1. Then we're going to draw the amount of fate cards according to how many of those units you have. So now the blue faction, who is the attacker, is going to draw 2 fate cards because they have here 2 bowmen. Fate cards are the cards that we have right over here. So we're going to draw 2 of them. And we're going to place it just like this. Now the defender is going to draw also 2 cards because also they have 2 units with the initiative of 1. Now each player is going to take a look at those cards, and the first thing that they're going to do is to resolve the special abilities. Now let's break down what we can see on one of the fate cards. So I'm going to demonstrate it with the fate card number 19. we can see that we have here, first of all, a few shapes. We have the triangle, we have the rectangle shape, we have the circle, and we have the hexagon. Now, each one of those shapes correspond to your different units. So again, we can see over here that the Flesh Reaper is actually going to be with the shape of this rectangle, but over here with the blue faction, their Bowman first initiative unit is actually being controlled by the triangle shape. The outer symbols actually correspond to either the special ability, as we can see over here, or damage, or it can even be to route a different unit, which is the flag sign. Sometimes we're not even going to have a certain effect, and that means that this is basically a miss. So first of all, we're going to resolve the special effect, as we've said, and we can see again that the Flesh Reaper has in this card right over here, that is a fate card number 4, that in the rectangle shape we have a special ability. The special ability is what is written right over here on the faction sheet. On the other side, with the blue faction, again the Bowman is being controlled by the triangle, we can see that neither on card 6 or 27 we don't have the special ability. So in this kind of first round of playing cards, the blue faction is not going to do anything. So again, right now the red faction is going to play fate card number 4, and what is happening is that each of your Flesh Reapers has 3 health until the end of the battle. So we don't have here some kind of damage or something like that. Now we just need to remember that with this card, each one of the Flesh Reapers have 3 health and not only 1. That is going to make a lot of difference. Now, after the red faction has used this card, we're just going to discard it to the discard pile of the fate cards. Now moving to the second round of this step, we're only going to play the cards that are going to have the routed icon. So over here with card number 22 with the red faction, we can see that their shape, what they're having over here, they do not have the routed icon. On the other hand, when we're looking at the card number 6 of the blue faction, this is this card right over here, we can see that we do have this icon of routing units with number 1 on it. So what we're going to do over here is going to inflict this routed kind of damage to the red player. For each point of routing damage, and here we can see that we have 1 point, a player must route one of their undamaged units regardless of the unit's health. If all of the remaining units are damaged, then they must choose one of them to route. So now what happens is that the red player is going to choose one of their undamaged units, and it's going to be easy because all of them are undamaged, and they're going to route them. So again, routing a unit means to take the unit and just lay it down just like this. Now that we have resolved the routing abilities, we're going to discard this card as well. The last step is that we're going to resolve all the cards with a damage icon. So here we can see that the red player is going to play fate card number 22 and the blue faction is going to play fate card number 27. For each point of damage that a player unit are dealt, they need to take 1 damage token and assign it to one of their participating units. Damage tokens are assigned 1 at a time. When assigning damage during battle, a player must place the damage on a previously damaged unit, if they able, of course. If they do not have any damaged units, then they're going to assign it to any one of their standing units. So pay attention that the red player now needs to take 1 damage from the blue player, right? This is what we can see with this icon right over here. They're going to take one of these damage tokens and they're going to assign it to one of the standing units that they have, since they don't have already a damaged unit. Now we remember that in this combat the Flesh Reaper has 3 health point per unit, so they will decide to assign the first damage right over here. Now on the other hand, the blue faction needs to take now 2 damage. Again, we don't have damaged units, we don't have routed units over here, so they can assign the first damage to whomever they want. So the first damage that they're going to apply is going to be to this bowman right over here. But pay attention that since each bowman has only 1 health point, basically assigning this damage is going to cause them to be destroyed. So they're going to take this unit and they're going to put it back in their supply. And of course the damage token we can discard back to the main supply. Now we're going to assign the second damage token, and you already understood they can either assign it to the knight and then not lose it at all, or to the bowman again, or to the footman. So they're going to assign it actually to the knight. We're going to place it right over here, and that means that the knight is wounded but not yet killed. Now both of the players can take these cards and discard them to the discard pile. Pay attention that during the combat you will be able to play your tactic cards if that is something that is allowed with a condition on the card itself. Now that we have finished the first combat with the first initiative unit, we're going to move on to the second initiative unit. So you know what, guys? Let's continue and have over here a full combat example. So now we can see that we have here the berserker of the red faction and we have the knight of the blue faction. Since each faction has only 1 unit, we're going to start with the attacker and they're going to draw 1 of these fate cards to their hand, and the red faction is going to do the same, drawing 1 fate card to their hand. Let's flip those and see what do we have over here. So the red faction has card number 18 and the blue faction has card number 3. So again, now we're going to start if a unit will be able to activate their special ability. And we can see that when we need to start resolving the special ability, we have only the blue faction with the knight that will be able to resolve this special ability, since here we can see that the sign that we have over here, the triangle, is actually with damage. And over here we can see that the sign of the knight is the same sign that we have over here. The knight's special ability is called Command, and it says deal 1 route damage, then draw 1 tactics card. The red faction needs to choose 1 of the units in order to route them. Since this Flesh Reaper is already damaged, they will not be able to choose this unit in order to route it. So they can choose either the Chaos Lord or the Berserker. What they will decide to do is to route the Berserker. Now, I know what you're thinking, probably the Berserker is not going to resolve their card right now, but actually, if we have already drawn cards for that unit, we are going to resolve this card, because the damage over here, the use of cards is going to be simultaneously. If in a previous combat round this unit would have been routed, then routed units cannot draw cards. But right now, since we already drew the fate cards, they are going to apply whatever we have over here. So now the blue faction has finished using this card, they're going to discard it. And we're moving on to the next thing, which is to route units if we have that card. But here we can see that we don't have. So we're going to move on to the last thing, and that is to do damage. So over here we can see, again, triangle and triangle, that the Berserker is going to cause 1 damage. So I remind you that when the blue faction now needs to take damage, they're going to start with the already damaged units. Since they have only the knight as a damaged unit, they're going to add another damage token right over here. Now we can see that 2 damage is actually equal to their hit points, and that means that the knight is being destroyed, and we can put everything back in the supply, either of the player or the main supply for the tokens. Then the red faction can discard this card right over here. Now we're going to move to the next round, but here we can see something interesting. We see that the footmen have actually the initiative of 3, but the Chaos Lord has the initiative of 5. So the footmen actually are going to be activated before the Chaos Lord. So we're going to draw cards only for the blue faction. Since we have 3 units over there, we're going to draw 3 fate cards. So let's see what we're having over here. We have 3 cards. One of them is number 1, the second one is number 13, and the last one is number 21. So we're going to start, of course, with the special ability if we have. The shape of the footman is a triangle, and we can see that we have here miss, miss, and a miss. So that is, to be honest with you guys, pretty bad. So we don't have here the special ability, but we also don't have here the routing damage, and we also don't have here damage at all. So basically, the footmen didn't manage to do anything to the red faction, and that means that we're going to just take all of these cards and we're going to discard them. That was quite punishing. Now, since both factions don't have units with a 4th initiative, we're going to move on to the 5th initiative, and that is of course going to be only the red faction. They have only one Chaos Lord, so they're going to draw only one Fate card, and this is what they're having right over here. So let's place the card. This is card number 26. The special ability of the Chaos Lord is called Terrifying. Choose 2 enemy units. So first of all, you can see that it's you who will be able to choose, right? The red faction is going to choose 2 units. Each chosen unit is routed. If it was already routed, it is destroyed. So they're going to choose 2 footmen to a route just like this. And with that, guys, we have finished the combat rounds, and we're going to move on to the next step in this combat, and that is to tally the strength. So let's just for the example say that over here in this hexagon we would have had a stronghold of the red player with one of the fortifications development over here. It's just to demonstrate. So the first step, that if the defender has a fortification development in this area, they may use it now. And this Hungry Spawn token says that immediately before calculating final strength in battle, the defending player may discard this token to deal his opponent 4 damage. After that, he will have to discard this development, but that will not disturb them to build it again at a later time. So again, I don't want to affect the combat too much, so let's say that we didn't have that development, but just for you to know that it is something that we can use. Next, we're going to count the units. Each player totals the number of standing units that they have in the battle. This total is known as their strength. So over here we can see that for the red faction we have 2 units still standing, and the same we're going to have with the blue faction, right? We have 2 units that are still standing. If the defender has a stronghold present in this area, they're going to add the stronghold strength that is printed on that token. So over here again, just for the example, we can see that we have here a stronghold with the number 5. So that is actually going to be 2 plus 5, that is going to be the strength. Now again, I don't want to affect the combat too much, but just for you to know that this is a possibility. The next step is damage stronghold. If standing enemy units are present, and we do have 2 standing units, the defender then flips the stronghold so that its damage side is face up. Thematically, it means that the attacker managed to damage the stronghold, and now it's going to have the damage side face up. That means less strength in the next combat unless they're going to repair it. If it was already on the damage side, then they're simply going to remain the damage side face up. So again, let's take out this token since it was not here at the beginning of the combat. The next and final step in this battle is the resolution. The player with the highest total strength wins the battle. If we have a tie, just like we can see that we have now with 2 standing units of the red faction and 2 standing units of the blue faction, then it's the defender that is going to win. Now we're going to start resolving the outcomes. So first of all, the losing player must immediately retreat all of their participating units from the area and route them. What does it mean to retreat? When we're having units that are forced to retreat from an area, the controller of the units must retreat those units into one adjacent area. That area that they're going to retreat to depends upon the type of figure. Now, if it was the player-controlled units, which is exactly what we have right now because we're not controlling any neutral units, you have to retreat into a friendly area. In our case, it means that the blue player has to retreat over to this area right over here, since this is a friendly area. If we don't have an available friendly area, we have to retreat to an empty area. And if we don't have either this possibility or the other one, then basically all the units are being destroyed. In our case, all the units are going to retreat over here to this area, and I remind you that retreating units are always going to retreat while they are routed. And now I'm going to circle back to what we've said before about activated areas, that you can move out from there only if you're going to resolve a retreat. Now, if we would have had units that were already routed at the start of the battle, they're not going to retreat. Actually, they're going to be immediately destroyed. And I remind you that those units were not placed next to the faction sheet at the beginning of the battle. Now, let's say that by miracle something happened and the blue player is actually the one that won this battle. So let's say that actually now we have 2 footmen, for example, that are standing over here. We have other units that are being routed, and it was actually the red player's units that retreated to a friendly area. They don't have here, so they chose one of the empty areas. Let's say that they went over here. And also let's say that the red player had a stronghold over here. In this case, the blue player is going to remove the stronghold token of the opponent's faction, and they will be able to place one of their own strongholds tokens, but on the damage side. So again, thematically, it's like they took control over this stronghold. Now, if they already had all of their strongholds in play, that means that they don't have in their supply another stronghold token, they will be able to voluntarily destroy, let's say, one of the tokens that were already on the map and place it on the damage side in the contested hexagon. Then, of course, we're going to put back in the supply all the damage tokens from unit that didn't die in this battle, and we're going to remove the battle marker, place it again next to the map. Now, again, I'm going to take you back into the spring card that we have seen at the beginning of the game. And this is actually the third icon that we saw, that we're going to unroute. That means stand up all the units that are routed. Now that we already understood how combat works, let's see another option of players to interact with the neutral units. That second option is diplomacy. So let's say that the blue player has decided to activate this hexagon right over here, and they're going to place inside their units. The second option that we have, besides combat, is to engage with diplomacy. So that is the first actually choice that the player needs to take. If they have decided to engage with diplomacy, they need to discard between 1 and 6 influence tokens that they have in their possession. So obviously, if a player does not have influence tokens at all, they will not be able to go with the diplomacy option. After a player has decided how many influence tokens they would like to discard from their hand into the general supply, they will take the same amount of fate cards into their hands. So just for the example, let's say that the blue player has decided to pay 3 influence tokens and discard them to the general supply. Now they're going to take 3 cards from the fate deck. Now the blue player has in their hand 3 cards. We have cards number 24, 30, and 17. And pay attention that we're going to look on the destiny symbol that we have at the top of the card. So here we have 3 options, and the player will be able to choose one of these cards to play, and of course discard the other. So obviously the more influence you're going to spend, the better chances you have for a better result. The first option that we have is with card number 30, and that means that the current player must either start a battle in the same area, that means right over here of course, or they have to retreat. The second option that we have with card 24 is that all the neutral units are going to retreat to an adjacent area, and they're going to follow, of course, all the rules that we have with the retreat. And if there are multiple areas that the neutral units can move to, it's going to be the player to the left of the player who just engaged the diplomacy. Here we have only 2 players, so obviously it's going to be the red player, but if we had more, it's going to be the player to the left. And if the neutral units have nowhere that they can retreat to, then they are simply destroyed. The last and most interesting option that we have is with card 17, and in this case the diplomacy actually succeeded, and all neutral units in the area are going to be allied with the player. This results that the player's units and the neutral units are going to remain in the same area, and now the blue player is going to gain control over all the neutral units in that area. So I hope that you already understood that it will be optional, of course, to have multiple neutral units on the same place, and if diplomacy has succeeded, we're going to take control over all the neutral units together. So now that we're controlling some neutral units, let's understand a little bit what does it mean. So again, we can control these units exactly like we would control our own units. If it's going to be with movement, if it's going to be with combat, and even for the penalty in these things, that means that I remind you that a hexagon cannot contain more than 8 units, and it can be, of course, a mixture of our units and the neutral units. Then again, we can move the units to different locations as long as always we have at least one of our own units remaining in the same hexagon as the neutral units. And I'm saying that because the moment that we're going to move only our units to a different hexagon, like this for example, then these neutral units that stayed over here in this hexagon are considered again to be neutral, and the different players will be able to again engage with them either in combat or in diplomacy. Now, if at some point we're going to have maybe a combat or something like that with different factions, even if all of our units still were destroyed in that combat, we're going to remain in control of the neutral units until the combat has completely finished. So that means that if we have later different effects that are still going to cause damage to the enemy faction or something like that, we're still going to apply those effects until the combat has completely finished. And now I'm going to take you a little bit back into the combat sequence, and now maybe it will be a little bit more understandable why we can control more than one type of unit with the same initiative. We will need to choose only one type of unit that will participate in this combat. Let's move on to the summer season card that we have right over here, and we're going to talk a little bit about it, and that will connect us to the next topic, that is the heroes. So again, we have the primary ability that is going to be different between the cards, but what I would like to focus on is the secondary ability. Now here, we're going to have something that is called a quest phase, and the different heroes will be able to do a couple of things. So before we're getting into that, let's break down the hero cards and understand what do they mean. For this example, I'm going to use the hero of the blue player that is called Ronan of the Wild. So let's start from the top right corner and we can see which alignment that hero has. Now you'll be able to acquire different heroes either from your alignment, from the neutral alignment, and even for the opposite alignment. Right below it, we're going to have the 3 attributes of the heroes. We're going to have here strength, agility, and wisdom. On the bottom left corner of the card, we can see 2 icons. One of them is going to remind us which shape do we need to look for in the fate cards that we will draw later. And the right one is simply how many hit points does that hero has. With that, let's move to the 3 things that each hero will be able to do in the quest phase. They will be able to choose only one of them. The first thing that we have is to train. In this option, a hero will be able to train up to 2 times. They will be able to choose 2 different attributes and push them up by 1, or 1 attribute by 2. So if the blue hero will decide to do that, let's say that they want to train their agility, they will be able to take this token that we have right over here. From one side it's +1, from the other one it's +2, and they're going to place it next to their hero. The second option that we have is to heal the hero. So we're going to see how a hero takes damage during combat, but just for you to know that with this option, if a hero is damaged, for example, they will be able to remove this damage completely. Now pay attention that in order to heal a hero, the hero will have to be in a friendly area. The third option that we have is to move. A hero may move up to 2 areas and then possibly start either a duel or attempt a quest. Pay attention that it does not mean that we're going to activate the hexagon that is our destination. Now I'm just going to give you here a small reminder that the heroes may move into and through enemy and neutral areas without triggering actually a combat. Routed heroes may not choose this option, of course, of movement since they are routed. So let's talk about how we're going to complete a quest. Some quest cards that we have are going to contain a specific mission that corresponds to a specific hexagon. Let's take, for example, this quest card right over here, 7A. That means that the hero needs to be on hexagon 7A, which is this one right over here, in order to attempt and complete the quest. So just for the example, let's say that this hero Ronan was over here, and they can move up to 2 hexagons away, so that is 1 and 2. And since now they're going to be on the same hexagon that corresponds to their quest card, they're going to attempt and resolve this quest. So at the top part of the card, we're going to have some flavor text that is not so important for the moment. But then let's read what we have at the bottom. Here it says that we need to test our wisdom. So this is something that is going to be similar to different things that we try to resolve during the game that relates to the fate cards. In this case, when we want to test any one of our attributes, we need to draw fate cards according to how much of that attribute do we have. In our case with Ronan, we can see that we have 3 wisdom, so that means that we're going to draw 3 fate cards. In our case, we have drew cards 9, 12, and 19. From the cards that we have drawn, we need to choose one of them and discard the others. Unfortunately, we're going to have here the same option, right? Because with the destiny icon, we can see that we have the same thing. And when we're looking back at the quest card, we can see that with this option, we're going to have to retreat, right? This is what it says over here, flavor text, and then the hero must retreat. So this attempt for a quest actually failed. But let's say that instead of one of these cards, we would have drawn this card right over here. Now we can see that with either one of the symbols, either the one that we have right now or the third option, here it means that our attempt has actually succeeded. Receive a reward. When we need to receive a reward, we're going to take the top card from the reward deck and we're going to take it into our hands. The player is going to look at it and then place it face down in front of them. The reward card cannot be turned face up until the player wishes to use that reward card. From this point onwards, of course, the card is going to stay face up for the remainder of the game. If you have multiple heroes, those heroes will be able to trade between themselves the different reward cards as long as they are situated in the same area. Now, it doesn't mean that 2 heroes will have to stop in the same area and then trade. It can be even if one hero passes through another area that contains one of your heroes. The next topic that we're going to talk about regarding heroes are duels. So let's dive right into it. Let's say that the hero of the red faction, that is called Battle Mage Jace, I think at least, is over here in this hexagon, and Ronan seeks the opportunity, and at the same time when resolving the quest phase, they decide to move over here and they choose to start a battle with one of the enemy heroes that is present in the same area. So of course, if we have here another hero from a different faction or from the same enemy faction, the hero that is attacking is going to choose who is going to be the defender. After that, the heroes, starting with the attacker, will be able to play cards or use abilities that have at the beginning of a duel. Then we're going to have 4 rounds of combat between the different heroes. So starting with the attacker, each player is going to draw 1 fate card that we have right over here. Then both of them are going to reveal those cards, and starting again with the attacker, we're going to resolve whatever we have over there. Now pay attention that those cards are going to be resolved simultaneously, just like we have seen with a combat itself. So let's assume that the blue player has drawn card number 20 and the red player has drawn card number 11. What we're going to look right now is for the circle shape that we have. This is again to remind you why we have the circle shape on the heroes cards. Now the blue player unfortunately doesn't have any icon next to the circle shape, and that means that nothing happens. He actually tried to attack and missed in this round. On the other hand, the red player does have an icon, and that is the special ability. So the red hero has a choice, either to deal 1 damage to the blue hero, because this is what we can see at the bottom part of the hero card, or they will be able to use the special effect from one of their reward cards. So since they don't have reward cards, basically the red hero is going to deal 1 damage to the blue hero. With that, we're going to take 1 damage token and we're going to place it on the hero card just like this. Then we're going to repeat this phase up to 4 times. So we're going to have 4 rounds of a duel. A duel can be finished in a few ways. The first way that we have is that one of the heroes managed to do enough damage to kill the other hero. The second option that we have, that both of the heroes are basically dead because we said that cards are going to be resolved simultaneously. And the third option is that after 4 rounds of duel, neither of the heroes is dead. If a hero was defeated, then what happens is that, of course, that hero is going to be removed from the game completely, right? They're dead, they cannot come back. And then the victorious hero is going to take all the reward cards that were assigned to the defeated hero. And if we have a few heroes of the same faction, so let's say that the red player would have had here another hero, they can distribute the reward cards between themselves as they wish. Now, if we had reward cards that were face down next to that player, they're going to remain face down. If they were faced up, then of course no problem to take them face up. The second option, as we said, that both heroes, for example, are going to be dead at the same time, or a hero that was defeated in any other time, even outside of duel, what we're going to do is going to take one of these markers right over here, that is called a defeated hero marker. We're going to place it just like this. And then we're going to take all the reward cards that this hero had, and we're going to place them next to the board with this token on top of them. So let's say that the hero over here had 3 reward cards, one of them was even face up. What we're going to do now is going to place them just like this, with another marker that has the same number on top of them. And as you guessed it, another hero will be able to come over here and claim those reward cards. If that happens, then of course that hero is going to receive all the reward cards and we can discard those defeated hero markers. If both of the heroes survive this duel, then both of them are just going to stay over here. And of course, if they had damage tokens on their cards, they're going to leave those damage tokens as they are. And this is why we've said that in the quest phase, a hero will be able to heal themselves by removing all the damage tokens from their card back to the general supply. Now, if we have, for example, a routed hero somewhere, then of course, one hero can still move over here and attack that hero, creating a duel, but a routed hero will never be able to start a duel. Another thing that we have is that if a hero started a combat, they will not be able to also attempt and complete a quest at that specific quest phase. And that's it, you guys. I hope that you enjoyed the video, that you learned something new, or that you saw something that you like. There are 2 other optional rules with the exploration tokens or epic game variant, but I think that after understanding what we've seen over here, you will be able to understand it on your own. If you would like to see more content for this game, don't be shy, write to me a comment, let's talk about it. Tell me which type of content you would like to see, and I'll be more than happy to do that for you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.